with many of those Kaitāia is to protect congregation as well as local, that they not be just peace, compassion, trust and encourage, then strong climb high, see the land, by deep to the trusting the value of unity and the experience in it sounds a bit funny to say welcome to those who are present today for our hearings because I feel like it's the other way around. I feel welcome. The way we've already had a day of hearings in Apogee. So this is our second day here in Kaitāia. Submitters will get 10 minutes for their Google submission. And then users will get 2 minutes after which please ask that you keep your questions short and succinct. And then any questions that you have will start that you can recommend to start. If we run out of time, what I'll ask is that you get contact details of staff or any submitters and you have any follow-up questions with them. We treat everyone the same. Submitters yesterday had a set amount of time and I was looking to time to get this day so that everyone any questions before we get started into our submitter, either online or right in our first submission, Google submission was from Crown Degree. People need to stand or sit if you're comfortable or
I'll play in.
You have 10 minutes for Google submission to us this morning as well. I'll give you a warning. You each of time that can be set before it. In my way.
I think I need to go that big. If I tell you, that we do in a bit, we want to leave a whole lot because of the Laburi Ringa, a Kulpeka, Lawa, Efa, a whole Efa. If it's everybody too with Omega, but the mother of the army like to finally. The Taitamatan, the Taipamawahin, Taiwane, the Taioputi, the Taioke, the Taket, a who you be a one. Kotekawai, Kotekawaira, Kotekawai, Moko, Moko, a two, I Taputele are two, Mapakue, Umato, Ayo, what was the code? Ayo, Ihoa, Ogama. Ayo, I gonna kia hakamama kia way. Oi, kroino, o peniamine ti papon. Overview, holder, facilitator, o tāmatu independent sovereign government. O tahitanga te manamotu hake treaty o wata. Ngā kupo ngā mātua tupu nei ki o mai ki ngoi haka tupuranga. Tere tō, huri tū. Tane wairua, tūria tangata. Te tūru wairua ka te whetu māra, o te maramatu. O te tūru tangata, o tahitanga, te manamotu hake treaty o wata. Nā, Akati. Nā kāroa tū ki ngā taki. Ngā taki wera o te wāhi. Hot topics of the time. We're talking about rent increases, about NET, we're talking about transportation, within the transportation, we're talking about the Rafaki Runga, Taho Kurupapo Niwa, Epo. Te ngā tūtahi, e kōrero mātou ana e whāna te ahu moana. Te ahu moana. Ko ngā mea kinu e whāmai ana i te kairo te ahu moana. Angaro. Ni moana. Ngā uri o rau. Ko te economic kaleupa. Ia hake rongo o ngoi. E pehia ta haka tika wēnei ahi o tō whāngi. Kei wainga nui i a mātou nei, ke wētahi tohunga e mātou ki te tuku te rofu. O wētahi atu o te dredging. Wētahi atu ko te mining. Another hot topic we had here a few years ago. Mining, oil, staple. So when they take wera, mairano. But the mea nui, e hara mātou I pai wai ki te hatu wai. Tai mai mātou ki te tupu ki a koutou. He rongo. E rongo ki tā haka tika wēnei ahi o tau. Me ngā rā ki te hara. So we're here to provide a remedy for the cause and effects affecting our environment. We're also talking about fish farms. We try to fish farm up in Kaitāia to do fish. We're talking about all type of farms, mussel farming, about oyster farming, tuna farming. I don't think there are some plans in the area. Taiwan, mussel farming. And also, there's restoration, there's remedies for restoration. With the erosion, there's huge amounts of erosion rolling out to Kaitāia, huge. And it's mamano hoki ta haka tika. Mamano, just have to look around the world, and you can see the stockpile initiatives that they've done to minimize the erosion, the effects of the erosion. You can't stop the tsunami, but you can prepare for the effects and the causes. And also this rise of the sea level. So restoration, you can restore protected time, which should stop banking, and that's going to minimize and restrict the erosion, especially in the small harbours. We're only talking about te raki. So hoki ana whangape, he kilo ahi para. And of course you've got whangaro, manganui, and Kia te kere ake ki whairangi. He whairangi, whangaro manganui, over talking about those areas, because those areas are very commercialised. Tourism. So it would be great to being here today and even presenting the scoreboard. Kuri o tini mōhi o e tai atu kanohi, engari Kaitāia whakite, te tūtaki pai au, ne? Hare tuni mako. What's the name? Okay, so that was just finished that up more off with the portion of CBA 522.45. I know that there are others, other numbers. Updated the county erosion, etc. Nā ka pirituni ki tērā, ngā me hanguru, ko tāna. So we're talking about horticulture. There's been a lot of initiatives and establishing nurseries for the kia hakatoa no te rākou, ngā rākou rangatira mahora hora. The reforestation of the natural species, flora and fauna. And this is the counter deforestation that's taken place over the last post 1840. And there was deforestation in certain areas pre 1840. So some of the planting affected by so we're talking about deforestation and how it is an impact on the riverscapes, our rivers and streams, our wetlands have been depleted. Right, so these are the actual forms of filtering of the white. We call the white Maori, the white Maori, the white Ora, the white Tuna. When the hiking, the hakapapa mai a anyway to you will lay, but you might get opportunity. So me tiri hui ang whānui, e kitia, e whainga, e makapapa, me ngā tari o koitu ke e, ngā tari o te kawanatanga. Me mātu me, au iha. Actually, I went down to Kiri Rocks down there for a little bit, check out the lakes around the area, check them all out, and tēnei pui ki te. And I know that a lot of work has been done on our lake over here in marketing. Some people that are working in there. And that we've got some issues as well over here with big certain things. The remedy is really simplistic. If we keep it simplistic, but if we get into detailed red tape, then it can take another 1,000 years. I don't think anyone of us is going to be here again. Probably end up as flora and fauna. So okay, so we're talking about Kaitāia, we're talking about the possums, we're talking about the rats, the stoats, the feral cats. It's hard case now. That one of the points on the moment there, the lookouts, standing there having a good look at all the left anyway. The next thing I see these kia running up the tree. And I know that there's been a lot of work, but we got initiatives locally, because these are local issues. So we've got a lot of local organizations that have been working for a long time to address these issues, to put it up, and of course the and which brings us to the other general.
See that, wrap it up, please, not so.
I knew that como you came up with me, and he got to he I knew this was coming. And that's why. Kutene he watu tahi mapu, ki te tuku te tahi tonu. Engari kutene e harai te tonu. E karanga tene. E karanga pai. Ki te harama, ki te mahi pai. Ki a wete ngia te matakutanga, te tai mahatanga o tāu. Me tau I mi hoki. Māpeu ko ngā tino ranga tino ngā I tire mi rau mai koina. Ko tinei te hui waitangi tukerangi te rātuni e te katopa I 1835. Ka wakaputa I te rangatira o te mātou wenu a ka meatia. Ka wakaputai e mātou he wanua rangatira ke huwainu o te wakamene a hapu o ni tira a tēnā koutou. Tēnā koutou a tēnā tata.
Tēnā koutou. It's time for one question.
I'm really interested in money in the money package you mentioned and things like that. Maybe looking up for those areas, but maybe it's one thing. Follow that way.
Quite, it sounds good. Along with North Regional Council, the responsibility for a lot of those environmental issues. Mihi nui ana ki a hui, pai waihi mai ki te kōrero ki a mātou tēnei kaungira o te ipo tika I tēnei rangi tōni nei, puku matua. O te tūmuna hui ai, kore hui taki tēnei te haure engari, te tīmatanga tēnei ki a wāna kunu ai tātou katoa e pura anō ai te tātou tito hai. I take into account some research and
You want one another by when you book them. Yeah. Well, you can be seen as well by one of here. But on that
I mean, so when we came this morning, it was much of my things, so mentioning on the Kaitāia, lots of this, get off with after you and then was setting it up.
So I'm just with this before my submission. Council of Board is having interest social in the discussions. It's very clear when the mother is team of the drainage committee from this item. You've already predetermined the outcome of the drainage when you've said our preferred preferences, so for that predetermination. I don't believe we can carry on with that. You leave yourself up. Okay, my submission is very clear, very clear. The drainage areas. I was bringing our money spent on because no one's been doing the work. They're waiting for resource consents from NRC to spray out the drains. Hasn't been done. Last time any major works got done was when Steve Smith was the council engineer. He's been gone for 3 years. So yeah, that's the issue there. And we shouldn't be paying for it, right? That's just another excuse to rip the ratepayers off. And quite frankly, this council is getting good at district-wide wanting every track. And every time you do that, the cheeks of my butt touch you because I know I'm going to get screwed. That's that one. They will leave. But if you continue down that line, then I believe we're open for a legal challenge. And your staff have already predetermined that. And they don't say it's the staff, they say our preferred preferences that relates to everybody in the council. So I'm putting you on notice from there. Number 2, I was charging for those that connect to sewage and water. Well, they believe they can connect to sewage and water. To wait for it, leave it alone. You can't supply the services. That's a proven fact with the crap town, as it was known. Let's talk crap at Kiri. when they undersized and areas that were put in for benefit aren't able to connect. They pay it because no. It's just another ratepayer scam to screw us to pay for Kiri. As far as their water goes, but you can't even sort that out in Kaitāia. That's a muzzle. So if you're going to do that, I think you leave yourselves open to some real challenges. And quite frankly, we get screwed enough. We get nothing from this council, nothing. And you're putting up the rate 16.5%. With everything else going up, you're going to see the old people out on the road. Pick and save last night, an old lady go buy the same groceries every fortnight. An extra $50 she didn't have. She was trying to work there and everybody's backed up in the queue, working out what she can take out and hand back and get off the bill. I paid her bill for her. I'm not saying that to be a smart ass. I'm just telling you the reality out there. There's a lot of reality checks this council needs to have. You've got contractors ripping this council off, and we, the ratepayers, are having to pay the increases of everything. You want to go district-wide for waiting? No. I'm not going to subsidise bloody Kiri. I'm sorry, I'll give you the hard facts. We've been doing that for too long. Quite frankly, this council is out of control. And you either need to take it back or step down the line. What a commissioner. Because when Ngātahu, which is now 70% finished, comes in under the $1 million, when it was estimated all sorts of figures by your staff and consultants and everything else, it's going to be front page news in the Age. And if we can do it, it just simply shows how the contracts are not being managed, how the ratepayers are being ripped off. I would really strongly urge you all to forget the 16.5% and get a reality check. You've got staff in there that shouldn't be there. They need to be gone. Cut the staff. The government are doing it. Why don't the Whānau District Council? There's a lot of deadbeats in there. That's the bottom line. You want to go district-wide for this, district-wide for that, district-wide for that. Leave it alone. People can't afford it. People in the Hokianga, my whananga up north, my whananga in Kaitāia, they can't afford all these exuberant bloody rate increases. We're seeing nothing for it. Alliances, what a joke. So, Moko, that's it in a nutshell. I'm over having my backside ripped by. I've got 8 properties up here, and I pay my rates. They're all paid for the year at the beginning of each rate year. We need a reality check. And quite frankly, stop the bullshit with going out to district-wide for anything and everything. But the only ones that are going to benefit, and that's Kiri and Karen's pet projects. That's my call of law. Aye. And is the security here today? We've got security here today?
Yes. My security is myself.
Well, I was just asking, was someone going to escort Council Court down to the bank to get the 95,600 for the executive decision she made with giving away power connections? And if not, why not? That's ratepayers' money. That's my call. I would like to see that 95,600 that will reduce the bloody rates that everyone's paying. On that note, no, I think
I say is council.
Things. And that's it.
No worker. Good morning. Good morning. Now, politics that we're going to face on Person submission can be done on. All 2 minutes. Written submission today, and we allow 3 minutes. Questions. And I think 2 minute is up. Otherwise, thank you very much for that's council and
Thank you. Yeah, good morning. My name is Morwag and I'm a farmer from Baldwin. My submission today is about maintenance of unsealed roads. Well, I'll begin with a quick summary of my experience in this field, so you don't just think I'm another group. Just be fun. I grew up on River Roads and I live on Lamb Road and regularly travel on this road and Henderson Bay Road to my favorite roads. My way to live in Mount Canada. The 1970s and 80s, we also contracted largely metals from quarry on the mount. We supplied and delivered metal for local farm roads, driveways, etc. And the big one was the base course for the tar setting on the Farmers Road in our area. Following this, when it moved out of our area, we were supplied and delivered metal to the Albury Forest. Prior to this, in the early years, I did a stint working for a roading firm in Nelson, where I became greatly interested in the work of the grader. The friend of the grader driver and seeing my interest in his work was kind enough to impart a lot of knowledge about roads and grading, etc. This stood me in good stead as I became the road grader and maintainer of the roads on the camera. People like probably have 10 Ks or something like that looked after me. Including during the early 2000s when the forest in the mountain was harvested during winter. 3 years, it was approximately 200,000 tonne of logs. So it's a bit of a challenge being a farmer and keeping the road down. During the submission, I spent quite some time online searching for the council website for information on policies relating to road maintenance, which proved largely fruitless. Particularly interested in policy angles, especially so going to the policy of not grading roads over the dry period of December to April. I've never seen this policy published anywhere, but it pops up if I don't know if there's grading advised. The email from the council, it's the ladies at Moga advised to send the request of the RFS and to explain it, and to explain supposedly the reasons for this. It's created by a spin doctor and passing it on. The effect of this policy is that ending at the time of the last grade in 2023, 2 roads have gone ungraded and unmaintained for the 5 to 6 months in 2024. Coupled with the road maintenance update figures which you get website, show that in December there was 22.4% of total roads graded. October, 35%, September, 28%. So it's hard to find the roads in a bad shape. Currently, as of yesterday, there are no update figures for 2020. But apart from the dry period policy, the side roads in general during the year states maintaining the routes. And this includes the roads like council territory. And talking to such as ambulance crews, telecom technicians, rural post operators and stock agents travel a wide area of roads. I do. They all attest to this. These are not people who are prone to exaggeration. This is how it is. But if there's any doubt, issue of potholes is irrefutable evidence for poor maintenance. They are, in fact, the canary in the mine road maintenance. I say that because not often get a small puddles. As the water gets splashed out by wheels of vehicles along it, as the metal fines, so that the hole becomes deeper. So the process is more rain, more water, bigger space, deeper hole. Is the end of it. Being dissolved. If the hole is reasonably shallow, it's actually possible to fix this by grading with the metal as it's been swept over, fills the hole. However, as the hole deepens, there's not enough compaction effect in just grading over top. The new metal will slump. Traffic is creating the beginning of another hole. The alternative is to manually fill every hole. You actually have to make a pothole, but you raise it so when it flattens down, it's level with the road. Key issue here, as it is in all aspects of road maintenance, is the length of time between maintenance. Aligned to this is the old but ever relevant adage of stitching time saves line. One can only guess at how much referred to damage of slips, etc., which is really to the fore in the LTP, has in reality been the result of poor maintenance. One I do know is the whole road at Pukenui. That was down quite reliable people, owners and certainly nearby. That was down to malfunction of the coal blocked. I'm taking any notice of the lady that lived in. This was happening. But basically, we will never know, which is another problem in itself. Trying to find out information about things, there's actually a dearth of information and data available being used to understand why we're in such a state that we're in. The only thing in black and white is the rates invoice, which, unlike any other invoice, doesn't explore or quantify what has been paid for. While there's a dearth of available information, there are principles and concepts involved in our current demands. Beside road maintenance, I believe it is time to full-time model, which is no longer, as it ever was, purpose. Having the council on one side and a style contractor on the other side is just not worthy. So I can give it the outline. There are good people in both organisations. I have no problem with the quality of the workmanship of the contractor. In fact, I paid tribute to Fulton Hogan's recently retired grader driver, Jim West. The northern boy who grew up in Kaitāia would be in a group of top grader drivers in New Zealand. But just never sent him. One comment by the recent comment by his daughter, one of the ladies in Fulton Hogan, probably sums it all up. She said, we used to have one person in the council to deal with. Now we have 17. I believe that a return to the concept of the on-road gang is worth considering, of course, modern style. Before the gangs leaning on shovels, etc., at least they had shovels and did in fact clean out problems. They were also locals for skin in the game, so to speak. Told their own areas daily, and knew the local areas to flood and bear. As opposed to inspectors with hard hats and good gear and boots, driving around at odd intervals, and they don't fix anything. And we don't be full slipstrings upon it later. 2 minutes remaining for that. Okay. A modern style road gang would consist of 2 people, in my view: a grader driver and a medium to small grader, a long laundry equivalent, a small digger, truck to look after culverts, and water tables. Now, Party Peninsula, they would be responsible for the side road maintenance and possibly some places in the forestry headquarters north, but that would be adjustable. This model could be replicated in other districts as required. Any remedial work by above and beyond maintenance relevant machinery and equipment that are readily available in the district for hire as inquiries. In conclusion, I wish to commend Council of Research for his efforts in writing 2 columns recently for the Northern Age, because he does write anyway. His thoughts are a light at the end of the tunnel. I would urge all councillors to support his ideas. I believe they are blueprint for a better future for the North. Services in the North. Also, they could easily be aligned to a better way to achieve road maintenance support and fulfill the timeless status, stitch in time, which for so long has been ignored at our peril and cost. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak today. was
Thank you very much. We've got time for questions. If you're Councillor Roach.
Look, I sympathise with you about the business of roads and the condition of roads. I have to shoot out the final papers and that, so we'll do one. It's a goat track. Goat track. It's been available there for at least 6 months. So finally, I got in contact with Clinton Home this morning. What they're going to do, they're going to count everywhere. I said, no. What you do is you put a grader on there first, grader it, up it, then put the metal, it will go over the top, and turn it into the ground. Now, do what? And it's, I've been a councillor for a long, long time. In the last 6 years, I have never seen a power system shot mistake. And I've brought it up so many times in council. It's been a waste of time. Yep, I said it was with you on, but actually going through. I live on it.
I'll just ask for my list that please ask questions.
Contracts will be coming up soon. From what I've heard from your deputation, are you proposing that we consider having road in house, or are you suggesting that we have smaller contracts and more contracts? Different
no,
areas?
I don't suggest having in-house stuff. I think it was a wise move to move from North Road Gang simply because people pay a lot of, they buy a lot of machinery, they have trucks in the unload and so forth. No, I'd visit you probably contract it out on a 3-4 basis or something, so it'd be worthwhile some investment. But the important bit is the size of the grader of that. I actually have an old tractor with quite a heavy duty hydraulic blade. I actually break it land road to quite honest. Not necessarily that blade, I've got a smaller and older blade, which worked fine. Don't actually need a big 6-wheel drive grader to sweep metal and keep the shape of the road line. That's the guts of it. It's keeping them like there's a grader driver told me now, so it's all about keeping the water off the road. Ground line keeps it. Wood table sorted. Don't keep potholes. Not rocket science, it's basic stuff.
Yes, and so from what you said as well, they're not watering and leveling and rolling the road in the summer, so they're not doing all of the work. That would be
What
policy we have for each council. Is that we're not doing that because it's not in the month summer contract. So do you think the solution is to make smaller contracts like or
Yes.
farming within the out west so that we
Yes.
have lots of people in
Yeah.
those areas get past into one.
grading one area and others look knocking off the road. Can't see how it can work. I mean, here we are, the tour centre of the thing. How put the road was closed. Too bad. You would close it. There's a jewel in the crown of the north. Closed. Henderson Bay has got that many people on it. But I have one question for you, please. How do you carry
Put to me, please, Mr. Wade.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome to contact me or ask me about details about the district.
This one me don't give me no. Anyway, thank you.
Very much appreciate you taking the time out with me. Okay, thank you.
Certainly hope you make guess what the council was says.
Will be from Shooting. And I think you've got some headers there. That I find that for the shooting, it's good to see you again. Thank you for something.
We had quite a bit of them. So that it's civil, so, probably, and so. Some children ended up being secretary of group, which is the Kaitāia airport group. We are a group of passionate people, who have, I'm a community facilitator volunteer. We have a historian person who has looked after Kaitāia runway for many years. We have a commercial pilot, a airport owner already, very versed in aviation, and we have cultural advisors as well. So a small group, we believe, and we are fortunate that we are not involved with the settlement. We know that is a separate issue and that will take its own road and will be a solution. Our concern is for management of the operations of the airport, which will be beneficial to our community for all sorts of reasons. The airport is one of the largest north of Auckland. It needs to be looked after, it needs to be revered. We were very fortunate that the Americans built it for us. So our due diligence is to look after a gift that was given to our community at the time. And we would like to see improvement at the airport, of course, with facilities, with fuel back again, with working with tourism, inviting air crew and pilots from commercial as well as private to use our facility. There's growth for academy for teaching pilots. There's tourism is a growth area. Security, surveillance. We're the top of the North Island. We're the top of New Zealand. Anything coming from the north of our country, we're in the first line of fire, and we need to have good surveillance as well. That really covers what we are heading for, but also too, it was thrown a bit when the roads became problematic for us, and we have still got problematic situations with the roads. So how do we get anything in and out? How do we look after our health for people? How do we look after our primary produce for people? Because that's our main income. It's all reliant on roads, which are not particularly up to standard. So we do have this outage of roads. So that was, another part of our concern. Is that even though we're far away from somewhere, but we don't want to be blocked off. We want to be a part of the solution, because Northland is 37 or nearly 40% primary produce. So, we feed the New Zealand, and we feed the world quite well from this area. So that needs to be looked after. Road department, if the roads aren't good, how else do we get it out? Civil defence is another thing that came up in our conversations, because we have had incidents up here, which weren't well looked after because of the situation of no pit fuel at Kaitāia Airport, and we need to develop a civil defence for our area. We could go on for quite a while. I won't go on for the lot of time, thank you, but I'm happy to answer any questions you think I could out of my submission, because we have already met with something you may not know. We already met with the Mayor of June in case of airport management. So thank you for that time too. I'm happy to answer any questions, and if I'm unable, I may have to my other colleagues at the back here.
Thank you very much. It is succinct, well articulated by the immediate Kaitāia.
Thank you for your. Can you just outline what your Kaitāia Community Airport services, what do you want to provide as a potential offer to council?
Well, thank you, Roger. It's management, and we sort of believe that there might be conflict of interest with farming colleagues owning Kaitāia Airport and managing Kaitāia Airport. It could be said that there's been a conflict of interest with management of Kaitāia Airport, and so that that is the main concern as well. But we don't make the decision about managing the airport. The district council is given that from CAA. But we want to present an opportunity that there may be something else or another organisation that could do it for the community.
And a subject to, are you okay to work with iwi and Papu if there was a proposed point management?
If there was an offer on the table, we would look at it. Yes, we would be open. Because finally, we'll all be here with the community.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
That's so quickly. I do like the idea. The other areas I don't know people in London would be, and then it's going to be considered like surrounding area, the public street area, different site, and getting to see.
Well, that's part of the tourism potential, you know, and the Euro Club do a little bit, the local Euro Club do a little bit, and you know they've only got a little plane, but if we had access to a slightly bigger plane to do tourism, yes, that's fine. Kaitāia Airport over the years prior to COVID did have a lot of tourist jets come to Kaitāia because they couldn't land at Kirikiri Whangarei. The capacity at Kaitāia Airport is better. So often you used to go up there and you'd see commercial jets from Canada, you know, commercial jets from that was a very good income because every time they land, they pay $1,400 landing fee. So that's sort of something we missed out on.
Council.
Good point. Good presentation. There's one thing that hasn't been touched on other than commercial airlines is freight. You know, and the opportunity that we have for our area being the big basket, you know, the Great North Island, and known internationally. Is that something as well that your group has talked about?
It is because freight was taken out of Kaitāia Airport. Well, the seafood was taken out of Kaitāia Airport over the years. So yes, why not? Because of the road, got no road in. Well, that's what you have to look at. You have to look at other options. Yes.
Thank you very much for your submission to our long-term planning. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Our next submitters are our own. Thanks to welcome us. Let's see. Thank you for having us on the beautiful day. I don't want to say welcome because it's the other way around. So, submission. Thank you on behalf of the council for the incredible work you do for
We have a good meeting. Just an apology from John Stewart. He couldn't make this. He was one of the presenters, but it's left in the gap. There's a Rachel here. And we'll begin our submission. Rachel, we're about to change the plan, so Rachel will be the first section.
And thank you. Obviously, Rachel Balfi. I'm a community board member for Tahiku. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I'm just going to read through our submission. In general, the Tahiku Community Board is concerned that the long-term plan may not align with the government's direction. In view of changes in policies that the government is planning and implementing, the board suggests that the LTP for 2024-25 is adopted, but that projects and proposals for the following 2 years are reviewed after a year, once there's more certainty that we are moving forward together. Our communities have never been more concerned at the lack of general maintenance, undrivable roads, blocked drains and culverts, overhanging vegetation and damaged footpaths. They have less concern about climate change, emission control, cultural enhancement and excessive future planning. The board requests that efficiencies are made in the latter areas to fund council's core services, which include roading, water, drainage, regulatory services and public facilities. In other words, the council should get back to the basics. The rate increase includes targeted rates should not exceed 10%. The board does not support the increase in governance costs to 6 cents and suggests that the council explain why these costs have burgeoned, I guess that would it, out to where they are, and looks for efficiencies in this area. Minimise climate change costs. It is not core business and not a district council requirement. Future planning to be kept to a minimum. For example, the planning document of 2100 was an expensive waste of staff time and money. Concentrate on core business that ratepayers are paying for now. Request CEO to report on operational costs, vehicle use, travel, effective use of office space and common sense approach to staff from specific areas, e.g. Kaitāia staff working in Kaitāia area and minimising travel. The RFS system needs an overhaul so that responses are more timely and meaningful. Next one is, should we change the way we rate the stormwater? In the event of flooding in Kaitāia, water needs to get to the Awanui River. Flooding is a major risk to Kaitāia. A budget is required for regular maintenance of channels, culverts and floodgates and regular monitoring. Every township is rated for further stormwater. What operational budget has been allocated to Kaitāia? And could you please confirm that there is one and how much it is? The board requests confirmation that not only are the council's assets insured, but if they fail, there is a public liability insurance to cover any potential damage to private property that was experienced in other parts of that was also experienced in other parts of the country during the cyclones in 2023. Wastewater resource consents need to look at discharge to land. There is nothing in the LTP for Kaitāia. Should we change the way we rate those who access or could access water supply and wastewater services? We just note that Doubtless Bay is an independent water provider. How do we continue to provide community services in the future? The board supports option 1, but as Te Hapu will have no additional operational cost or capital investment, we do not want to pay for anyone else's costs, which should be through the ward rate. The board supports localism as promoted by Councillor Buttigieg. So comments as follows. Doubtless Bay Information Centre complements the services that the council provides here at Siapi. Doubtless Bay is a destination that has the greatest growth in the district apart from Kirikiri. The Information Centre refers many visitors to attractions further north. Although the Monganui Information Centre prefers to retain its voluntary status, it requests that its contribution to the economy of the district is acknowledged by way of an annual grant. In Awanui, tourists often turn north at Awanui. Some information services at that point would lead visitors towards Kaitāia and Anipara. Look at the budgets to determine where reductions can be made while considering a small grant to support future information services at Awanui. These proposals would provide equity to Te Hapu, which is the second largest area and one of the fastest areas of development, Kohora and Dallas Bay. If the council decides on 2 multi-purpose centres in the Bay of Islands, they should not be located in Kirikiri, which is far from a tourist destination. The 12 million allocation for Kaikoi's multi-hub is noted, and the council should provide for extra services in the Doubtless Bay area for the future.
Thank you, Rachel. Bill Zabriskie, the elected member for the soon-to-be Karikari Aoni subdivision. Feedback on supporting information. Land drainage. Drainage rates for the 2024-25 to remain as they are in the LTP, but Review future years' rates in 12 months' time. The public good component of Kaitāia drainage should be 30% to provide equity in the cost of removing urban stormwater. If drains aren't maintained, the water doesn't get out of town. Drainage differentials in the Waiharara, Kaitino and Motutangi schemes should be reviewed. The UAGC should be reviewed as it places an unfair burden on farmers. Changes in land use have not been considered and council should be looking at capital rating. Unusable land such as wetlands should not be rated as they are unusable. Roading, the board requests that the council look at whether roading should come back in-house with local staff and practitioners and a good monitoring regime. Remove 3 years funding of 3 million, the road to zero, which is no longer a government priority. Remove 4 million for cycleways and fund resource consent costs only at this stage. Include roadside drainage in all roading contracts. Collecting NRC rates, the board does not support collecting these. Sewerage, explain why the heated sewage rate is to increase by CapEx 440K, OPEX by 400K, equaling 880K. In total, when there is no program for capital expenditure, Kaitāia's costs are 1.2 million, 5.1 million, and 15 million, and their rate has only increased by $41. Kaitāia waterfront should be funded from the ward rate or a targeted rate. Te Heku Sports Hub, when will this be rated from? And will it be from the ward rate or the general rate? The board prefers the ward rate option. Proposed funding impact statement. It is time to review the differential rates due to significant changes in land use. Proposed forecast reserve fund needs further explanation. Community board grants, please retain the community grants fund and placemaking funds so that communities can make small improvements in their areas. Kaitāia drainage, stormwater and placemaking. Council staff and elected members have met with the community on several occasions and made a commitment to a schedule of works. So we need to honor that commitment. However, the board does not support further placemaking ventures at this point. Housing for the elderly. The board supports a partnership of preferably divesting to an external provider. It suggests that the farmers holding would be an appropriate provider, as far as other providers may not provide adequate security for the elderly in the long term. Farmers Holdings Limited has experience in development. The board is concerned at statements about some units being not fit for purpose and asks how this situation has occurred. It does not agree with housing for the vulnerable elderly being made available for social housing, as this is not always a good mix and there are other social housing providers. Capital Works figure of 3 million funds to be removed until some consensus is reached regarding the future housing for the elderly. Fluoridation, not core business, delete the funding of 3 million. Halls, consider divesting halls and land to the community and creating a contestable fund for the repairs and maintenance. Look at the depreciation funds for halls and pensioner housing.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, what time do we have left?
Pardon?
What time do we have left on our submission?
3 minute question.
Uh,
So what we might do is, heavily, you can put what else you want to say into your answer. The question might go, yeah. What else would you like to say?
Say, amazing that you put up your hand, John. Just recently, we've had instances in my board using locals to basically complete short, sharp jobs. It worked brilliantly. Response time was basically over a day. Job was done. Everyone was happy. This idea of using the local some. I know there are areas we have to look at, but by using the local people, we overcome a lot of things. The consolidation process becomes ongoing. People like myself at subdivision representative level, we get to know a lot more about communities and we develop great relationships. And that can only be good for us. I just want to go back to one of our previous speakers about the contract services we use. Here's an example. Am I allowed to give an example? No names. Yeah, okay. A road recently was developed on, sealed and only about a kilometre. Prior to that, I'd raised 2 RFSs for 2 major potholes and damage to the same road. Road was done, the kilometre plus was sealed. The other 2 holes of the RFS were in. They came back 1 month later or within the month and did one of those holes. One is still basically has to be attended. These are the discrepancies that some of our speakers were talking about. And yeah, it's not only bad business, but it's embarrassing for the local, embarrassing for the community. I think we need to look at the small things. We're doing a lot of those wrong. RFSs to me aren't working. At one stage, I requested all the RFSs that come out of my subdivision. Why? Because then I know what's happening. I go to about 4 or 5 more meetings on a regular basis, and that's the only time I'll get feedback, and it's usually a tap on the shoulder and says, Bill, I put an RFS in for blah, 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 blah. And that puts me behind the 8 ball in terms of responding, in terms of keeping my relationship with the community. So we need to look at the basics. And I think someone said that before. It's not hard. Back in the day, we used to call it quality assurance. In the dairy industry and the mining industry, I don't know what you call it now, but all of those principles work. It was having a system and everyone being part of that system. And I see us, with nothing but advantages heading that in that direction. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Rachel, for your very submission. What I will ask you to do is follow up through the that one of the this one of the actually make sure this should be added out to in-house. So let's follow that up with the next week. Obviously, I have a lot to think about.
Thank you.
Praise.
The regular questions are leaving the year doesn't have to be answered here. Being somebody from water, even he has an independent water supply. Yeah.
Quite I can close it on that. Our next is Paula's listed submission down on
The hearing. Hi, I'm Paul Matthews, and I represent Kaitāia Road residents. We have selected Kaitāia Road to be phase 1 and 7. I have provided you all with a full copy of my request. However, I will run through some of the main bullet points. Dust pollution contributing to health issues and water contamination. 28 residents reside on a 3.17 kilometre road, or to come with a new subdivision. Subdivision's been approved without contributions towards road maintenance. Several businesses residing on road. Maintenance deterioration rapidly due to high traffic flow. Our road is presently identified as coming due for pavement treatment. We believe a better spend of the upcoming fund by going to ceiling as maintenance deteriorates quickly due to high usage. Therefore, after all that has been highlighted, the residents request that current roads are sealed. My question to you is, what do we need to do to get current road onto the long-term plan of sealing? Any questions?
That most of us are Christian, but we, you know,
Constructed the question with these.
you get that. Capping down some Christians, but I don't want to say more, but I don't want to take up your time. And but you will get an answer if you go to the president. What would you do?
Just a support, we've been on the tar ceiling kaupapa for 30 years. It's taken us through this process. So I am here to support her on that, knowing that it's a long road. But there is a matrix that, you know, your information gets entered into, and there's many different points around that. Is that matrix still being used? And if so, I think it would be good for Paula to find out where their road sits within that matrix, because it seems to be a determining factor as to roads getting sealed.
I have a question for you that will really respond. At our, when we council got our station document, we actually voted to move on consultation the unsubsidised road sealing budget, which was to the sum of around $2 million in there. The road sealing matrix that people are referring to, that will determine where we would put that $2 million each year. So we have actually removed that budget provision. Would you be submitting to say and like to see that fund available to actually see?
Is that the fund where the ratepayer pays X amount and then the council pays X amount? So, and
No, this is the council. Subsidised by
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's road sealing is a huge issue up here. It would be good to be able to prioritise roads based on many factors, not just one factor. So I did see sense in the matrix.
We definitely, you agree that we do need a matrix, we need 1,006.
I
think roads that are trying to decide to the priority areas, and I think something like $800,000 per kilometre on average.
Yeah.
You agree?
We actually checks in quite a lot of detail, and there is a lot of factors that go to make the decision. And I do think it is a figure, as long as the matrix was, you know, made fairly, I think it is a good idea, because it does give a lot of clarity around what is a priority.
Thank you, Councillor Boyd.
Just a question around the spending of funds to either seal roads or bring up another proposal that Kaitāia Council have done, is essentially rebuilding the roads. It's called Centre of Excellence, and you can do 5 times as much distance by doing the Centre of Excellence road repairing with water tables and rolling and making it so that it's structured as well, but they're just doing the testing. Do you think, not just for your road, but for the local roads in the north, that people would prefer to do 5 times as much for fixing and totally rebuilding the metal roads instead of sealing, or do you think that people would want to do 5 times less and still do sealing?
Well, just for me personally, we've had every treatment done on our road, ever. And they introduced the dust suppression, which I personally actually investigated all different dust suppressions because we used it on the gas plant in Australia. That's how it came to get the dust suppression stuff. And that is a really effective, relatively inexpensive tool. And once the road is graded, like there's metal on the road, then it's graded, then it's watered, but with the dust suppression and then rolled, it actually is an amazingly effective dust suppressant, but it also keeps the structural integrity of the road. You can see up our road where there's patches where they've done it 6 months, probably 4 to 6 months later, you can still see very clearly that the road has actually still got some integrity and hasn't fallen away like the rest of the road. So I actually would think it would be great to investigate substances like that for dust, but also to keep the integrity of the road as an alternative, because when they just grade for road, as we all know, all the metal flies off. Going back to the grading, rolling, watering is really great, but if they could add the substance into the water, which I spoke to someone at, I think it was either Fulton Hogan or someone in the council that said it does hold the integrity of the road better than not doing it. Cost effective, I'm not sure that, but if there is a substance that can be added to that process, 5 times more roads can be dealt with. Better than
I don't know, just taking the break between the first one and this
That's what I was trying to. Okay. Yeah, so really, that would be prepared to actually incorporate part of the patient in with time to people sitting on that road. Question 1, question 2, which is, would you like someone from council to come and also sit with you, stay for the training and advise on the best way forward? So there's 2 questions there.
About putting money towards that leasing. I did, and that was the forms that I'm using through to you. Since then, because of the rates increase, I'd say some of them have got a nag on that because they were very keen, but then since talking, this has happened. Some of them probably fall short of I need 75% to actually go ahead. And the other thing is to how much does the council pay towards costs? We do that at one. Yeah.
Do what we do.
Anyone in this team.
I guess that amount that the ratepayer would have to pay, if that was stretched over a longer period of time, it doesn't hurt so bad. But when we looked into that for our road, it was quite a short period of time. It made a massive amount of change. But if there was some way to have a scheme where that could be stretched out over a longer period of time, I think that the ratepayer probably would be happy to absorb that if ceiling was the option they collectively chose. But that on the funding, yeah,
thank you both. Thank you both. I will just give it time for a verbal submission. If you would like to hear the conversation or follow up, or to be able to ask questions of us, and you know it details on that, but just so that everyone is being treated the same throughout that. Thank you very much for your time with us today. And I think we've got some very passionate and beautiful people. We see we get to on to the for the funding.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have you said a couple of things? Person submission, support and Ian Palmer. Hello, Ian. Thank you for submitting to the council for our long-term plan. Now, I'm happy to pass over the time to you for the 10 minutes you have.
Thank you very much. My name is Ian Palmer, and the topic is management plans for reserves. I'm sure that's probably not top of mind for priorities of long-term plans. So I won't take too much of your time, but I'd like to make a case for why it should feature somewhere in the long-term plan. So if you just go to the next slide.
Can you just present from the beginning? Just to make it again.
Yeah. First up.
Who's controlling this one? At the top left there, it says of the current slide.
Oh, is it not?
To present it.
From the beginning. I did.
Right. Ian, we will get you back.
But just by way of background, it's being done.
Is it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So if you go to the next slide. Yeah, so the concerns, as some of you know, sometimes the council will address big data, in particular reserve that's adjacent to my property, Kaitāia Reserve, which forms the eastern headland of the long-range harbour of the plan. In getting involved in that, it raises questions of the wider issue of reserve management, general management plans for them, including in relation to the council does have legal obligation to have management plans in place for certain categories of reserves for that section of the Reserves Act. So, in the next slide, the council has and thank you very much, progressed some commitments to address the issues of the particular reserve regulatory reserve, and the resolution was passed back in August last year to head towards a management plan for this reserve, and there's some preliminaries related to classifying that reserve, and that work's going on. Robin Rawson's presenting on that aspect to the later this month. When that resolution was passed, the Mayor asked a very relevant question of does this raise issues, wider issues of in terms of of reserves that are out there that are in need of management plans, and what options are there for that, the possibility of the rest. Into the next slide. So in terms of specific concerns with the Kaitāia reserve, having made that commitment here towards a management plan, I don't need to go into the details of the complexities of this particular reserve, but it is quite a complex site. So the expectation is to actually develop a management plan will require input from the relevant experts, consultants, consultation with a number of parties. There's two iwi groups that claim mana whenua status. Heritage New Zealand have an interest, of course, with present landowners. But request that obviously implies some cost. Also, council has committed to do a certain amount of addressing the issues with basic plant issues ahead of the management plan, which also, of course, implies some cost. So the question is, will that be able to be proceeded with in terms of budget, and if the item doesn't appear, nothing in the long-term plan has been described to me previously, it's different anything in the annual plan against the annual plan. And I'm very conscious of the sensitivity of sort of pushing things that impose further financial burden on council. I make the point that the key thing about getting in place a management plan for a reserve like this that enables the interested parties to apply for funding from other bodies to address the recommendations of them. So, main plan way is to get the council off the hook, not financially early on, the community groups can get funding from other organisations that won't give funding unless you can show that the main plan in place. Now, the last slide, which slide, in terms of the wider issues, pending the answer to the mayor's question, which I think is work in progress still, that it's unclear, but I suspect it's a rather large problem. I have a lot of reserve trying to manage plans. And I suggest that in response to that, other than do nothing, does require some mention in the long-term plan as to what is the strategy, and hence resorting to such, and hence feeding into annual plans, and possibly in a strategy that would seem sensible to myself is to prioritise reserves for which we do most of the development management plans, and also associated with that, encouraging community groups in Mana Whenua to be engaged in implementing the recommendations of such management plans, and particularly part of that, those community groups sourcing the non-council funding to do that. And a good example of that going on that I'm involved with is the Friends of Rangi Kapiti. That one's a dog reserve, but I think the same plan should apply to the council. So that's all that I just had a couple of photos in the next couple of slides. One showing Rangi Reserve how it looked in 1981, which was in very nice condition, and that's a possible future vision of how we'd like to return it. And one another last slide was actually one I used in the same presentation. Actually, done the presentation 3 years ago, showing some of it. But that's all.
Thank you very much. We have any questions?
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
just to clarify, you're wanting to see a budget inside the plan to carry out work for your management plan that was approved last year.
Yeah. My concern is what commitments have been made to develop the management plan for this reserve, and questions being raised about the wider issue, maybe management plans need of other reserves. Doesn't there need to be some provision in terms of both the strategy for dealing with it and hence resourcing the long-term plan, such that it's easier or more appropriate to get things in the annual plans to address specific items, like the management plan for the Rangi Reserve Council has committed to do that. I know there's Robin Rawson as a resource, as the planning, Parks and Reserves planner is part of that, but I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but it requires outside resources, consultants, experts, consultation, blah blah blah, that provided for, and it's.
Thank you very much for your listening. I think the council for that.
Appreciate all the value you do.
I think we have Andrea Pearson. Andrea is speaking on behalf of the Kaitāia Association. That submission was submitted by Josh Kirby, the chair of the documentations. And we're looking for coming to a legal submission process. 15 minutes.
Good everyone, thank you for the time today. I am standing in for our chair, Josh Kirby, because he couldn't be here today. So we're trying to do a collective, response on behalf of mostly the business association, but everyone in the business association wears lots of different hats. So trying to do a collective one. From our submission, you'll see that we feel that our area does miss out on a bit. I don't need to point out the disadvantage of the geographical spread of the Whānau district, as some of you today would have travelled quite a while to get here. And unfortunately, Te Huku is often overlooked due to our population, which is usually taken off a census that's out of date and has a poor response rate anyway. Or it's the time taken to travel up here, especially with the State Highway 1 being closed. No one considers the thousands of people and vehicles who drive in and out of our area on a daily basis when deciding what investment of time or money they should put in. In responding to the LTP, we feel like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. We don't want the rates to go up. However, we don't want any services to diminish, as we already feel a little hard done by. Putting our rates up is going to be detrimental because our building owners will pass on that increase to the business tenants in their leases, who then feel forced to increase the price of their goods. And our local businesses have been struggling for a number of years, and in the impact of what Temu is doing up here with all the other online shops, the increased rates that we have up here for the transport with having to go the long way, and the reduced numbers of people visiting with the various roads being closed. So the thought of increased rates with leases and rents seems like we're setting up people to fail financially. In our submission, we mentioned that financial cost savings and efficiencies are really important, and we understand that there are big contracts over long periods that must save a lot of hassle internally as an organisation. However, from Te Huku's perspective, having contractors drive several hours to do the work cannot be in any way a cost saving. The servicing just reduces. So for us, that means a street light can be out for weeks and sometimes longer as we wait for the farm at aid firm to come up and change it. The parks can look like hay paddocks for a large part of the year. Our streets is cleaned twice a year. Those are just a couple of examples of where the services don't feel right from as organisations from either Mid-North or Farn Bay are engaged to do the work. And we completely understand that centralising systems is supposed to be more efficient. But you have staff doing these jobs who are not from Te Huku, and they don't really care. Edges aren't weed eaten, gardens are ignored. I remember when I was dealing in my job trying to do a resource consent for the pump track in Memorial Park, that the staff member didn't know we had a pool there. That must have been here, our pool must have been there for over 70 years. We have a master plan that our Te Huku Community Board funded, and in it there are plans like having a second supermarket. And perhaps staff making critical decisions for our town aren't checking this document. We've had the space leased out for 30 years, so it's an example of staff not seeking local input into crucial decisions that impact our economy. We must be the only geographical area in the country that has one supermarket, and we were hugely vulnerable through COVID. And not only will an additional supermarket provide more jobs, but it's imperative a large service town like ours makes it a priority when we're so geographically remote during extreme weather conditions. Meeting basic human needs like public toilets are missing in Kaitāia. We have a huge North Park development and no public toilets. We have a new town square in the heart of Kaitāia about to open, and there's no public toilets close by. We've got a pump track in Bank Street, and there are toilets in the council-owned buildings and the old pool and the plunket room that are locked up. And I know we have a local councillor lobbying for this to happen. Don't get me wrong, I'm not having a go at staff or the council at all. I'm just trying to give you some examples of how it feels up here that you may or may not be aware of. It's ironic that savings are supposed to be made when the council amalgamated across the far north. However, we've certainly lost in terms of community feel and pride. Thankfully, one of the good things about the council is that you've got community boards, and our Kaitāia Business Association, along with all the communities in Te Huku, are really grateful for our Te Huku Community Board. They represent our community and they work hard to support worthy projects and causes. It just feels from our perspective that maybe they don't get enough funding or authority to be able to really take care of these areas. For example, the parks and reserves are under their care, but I don't think they get to choose who keeps up with the upkeep and mowing and how often. Our business association approaches our Te Huku Community Board to assist us with lots of local projects like public artwork, garden maintenance, the CCTV camera maintenance, the town master plan, just to name a few. Between the Kaitāia Business Association and the Te Huku Community Board, we've got passionate, committed local people wanting to see our local area improve. It's important that the council hears the hardships that feel worse in Te Huku than our neighbours. But I know Te Huku's not the only board that feels the same way. I feel like there needs to be a big push in lobbying central government to explain that our region needs substantially more assistance than anywhere else in the country. Whether it's roading, drainage, footpaths, wastewater, our growing area has huge needs. So we're just trying to protect and promote our local economy as best we can. I know there's projects in the pipeline at both the local level and central government that don't get pushed out until just before the end of the financial year, and then it's a panic to get them done. In the meantime, we've got contractors who are quiet, struggling to keep staff, and they've got machinery sitting out waiting to be used or hired. Again, hear our hearts. We are not having a go at the council. We're just pointing out that there have been more efficiencies by working closer with local communities, and you have our Te Huku Community Board. Giving more to the boards to manage is probably harder on these elected members with their pretty large workloads, but I just feel that they can maybe direct council staff to award local contractors who live in the area and are passionate about doing a good job for their area. This has to outweigh large service contracts for FNDC. We're also wanting to talk about other really important services like our Kaitāia Airport, such a critical link for people, produce and parcels. We wanted to lobby to have more funding for our bid, as we do quite a lot to look after our town with our Te Huku Community Board, filling in the gaps. People who have been in other bids are shocked that what we get done with only 50,000 a year, and this hasn't increased since we started. We're a bit frustrated with the lack of bylaws that are not monitored or followed up. We have in Te Huku absent landlords who have poorly maintained buildings and some tenants who don't value clean and tidy shop premises. It feels like it's getting a little bit out of hand, and I know there are other towns in the FNDC that feel the same way, which is not inviting to visitors. Even locals choose not to come to town unless they absolutely have to. We have dogs tied up outside vehicles or cafes that lay across footpaths, and the amount of dog number twos to dodge on the footpath is awful for anyone to navigate. I'm not sure if you're aware actually, the KPA is against housing in the old Pick and Save site. As we note, it's been rezoned as mixed use, but we have clear directions from our members that we will be objecting to any plans that include housing. There are so many areas we care about, but the three questions that revolved around the service centres, wastewater and drainage, I've printed my graph still off, and it doesn't have any breakdown of what we pay for. It just has an NLP and an FNDC amount, and that's it. So it's quite challenging to try and speak for both the rural and residential ratepayers. But what's important to us is that we value our Te Ahu Centre, and whatever option is selected, we must not lose the service where there are efficiency, using our staff to support more than one area, and it's a one-stop shop for everyone with the facilities in our Te Ahu. That's how.
Thank you. I've got a number of questions. I'll just start off with one about local procurement, so I can see that we've got our general managers here as well. I've heard that the Kaitāia dog pound is getting people from Kaitāia to come and install a fence when we have plenty of local people up here. I don't know what our procurement policy review is like, but it has been offered on the same procurement from our master plan. What's the feedback that you've had about having local people? Because now with the master plan that you've had a big part of, there's now got, I think, dozens, if not, 100 extra contractors to deliver things in the Kaitāia area, but they're not being contacted by the staff which are based in Kaitāia. Is that what you do?
That's what we feel, but it's probably, you've had a lot of staff changes, but the staff who've been here for a while have probably got their people that do everything. And through that project where we did the revitalisation, part of the money we spent was on training, because we found out that our locals didn't have the site-wise or the pre-qual, all of those things. Now they do. So we've got a massive amount of contractors that can do all of the work that's needed here, but they don't. I mean, it was lucky because our local group engaged them all to do the work up here. But when it's staff that don't know our town, they don't know our people, they're probably just using the same people they're used to that they've been dealing with. So yeah, the pound is an interesting one that has come up through my job. So I don't want to be conflict of interest here, but you know, I was asked to project manage it, and when I spoke to a staff member, they're like, "Why here? We've already got the guy from Kaitāia." I'm like, "Why would someone come from Kaitāia to build a fence in Kaitāia?" It's as if we don't have builders in Kaitāia. So it was just an example of being a bit alarmed at I guess it might be old habits, I don't know, but it's a call for please use locals to do local work, and it must cost way less. There's no travel to start with, so it must be way less to have our locals doing the work. I know the locals doing the Te Ahu Sports Hub, you know, that's local people that are not. Some of the times they feel like they're not doing work for much money at all, but they're doing it for the community and they run out of money. You know, like that sort of thing done by locals. Here, yeah.
But one last question, so you talked about a second supermarket for Kaitāia. Our council has had a number of deputations and papers about the use of a key site within our town centre. Have the staff contacted the KPA or gone through that document for the town centre planning to look at the other options instead of just the people that gave the deputation?
I don't know the answer to that. I know KPA hasn't been contacted, and I guess it feels like the libertarians are the right things to do. It's been a significant amount of money that there's people on here that are from our board. They know how much they gave the KPA, and it was over a year of consulting with all sorts of people, business people, schools, students, residents, all the different groups. Oops, is that the time up? So a lot of people were involved in that consultation document to come up with a plan, and you just think, oh, I hope it's not one of those strategic plans that sit on a shelf and don't get looked at. The idea was that it's used to plan for the future of our town.
Thank you very much. And you have to know your definition and please figure out the gaps for the one and
Yes, I didn't want to read out my stuff.
thank you for our submission of using the factor. Luckily. The bottom submission can be meaning we are like the October who are trying to get their code we are filming. For our written submissions, we are giving 2 minutes time with 3 minutes questions. You can always reach out to any of us at any time outside the scope for our long-term planning itself. And you pass the time to bring us up in a meeting.
Patrick, Pure, Omo, Becky, Tumba, and Elizabeth. I know you, but I know the rest of things you. I know you give me 10 minutes, but what I'm better within. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you to give your 10 minutes of how you acquired authority in this area, in this country. How did you acquire your authority? Is there a conflict between you and the natives?
Sorry,
Between the council, is there a conflict between the council and natives to operate?
so we can't, submit us if we treated the same, given 10 minutes to present to council, and then there's 3 minutes for us to ask questions of you. Each and every
Because honestly, it's an insult for me to give submissions. For a starter, he's all younger than me. And for the other thing is, this area belongs to us, doesn't belong to you. So this is why I'm saying, how did you acquire authority over resident papers? That's my first point. And the other thing is, I wanted to read out the Declaration of Independence. And I know a couple of you are familiar with that, but others are not. So I'll be speaking to them to get their authority. But before I do that, got a letter from the Department of Life. Is that you?
I'll put it on it. I'm here because I'm here to take to Obini. And it's about consultation with the whānau Hapuini on behalf of the whenua that's in question. To whom it may concern, dear Sir, Madam, we, the Te Pātu Marae Trustee, do hereby authorise Mr. Rupene Karaka to represent Te Pātu Marae Pampuria in all matters and concerns, directly and indirectly, in regards to the well-being of Te Pātu and members of the iwi of Pampuria. Mr. Rupene Karaka authority commences from the above date until advised to the contrary. So the above date is 1 December 1997. Advised to the contrary and can only be revoked by the Te Pātu Marae Committee. This authority enables him to attend all meetings and negotiate, accept, vote, enter into interim agreements and submit any proposals on behalf of Te Pātu Marae, its people and the Marae Committee. If there is any matter that requires clarification, please do not hesitate to contact the undersigned at the above address or phone number. Yours sincerely, Mr. Keith Coburn.
Anyway, just read out the declaration. 1835. We, the heritage of chiefs, heads of tribes of the northern parts of New Zealand, being assembled at Waitangi Fair on the 30th day of October 1835, declare the independence of our country, which is hereby constituted. Take that, constituted, and declared to be an independent state under the designation of the United States of New Zealand. All sovereign power and authority within the territories of the United Tribes of New Zealand are hereby declared to reside entirely and exclusively in the hereditary chiefs and heads of tribes and their collective capacity. We also declare that they will not permit any legislative authority separate from themselves in their collective capacity to exist or nor any function of government to be exercised within the said territories unless by persons appointed by them in Congress and Assembly. Number 3, the hereditary chiefs and heads of tribes agree to meet in Congress at Waitangi each year for the purpose of framing laws for the dispensation of justice, preservation of peace, and good order, and the regulation of trade, and accordingly invite the southern tribes to lay aside their private animosities to consult the safety and welfare of our common country by joining the Confederation of United Tribes. Number 4, they also agreed to send us a copy of this declaration to Majesty the King of England and thank him for his acknowledgement of their flag. In return for his regiment and protection, they have shown and are prepared to show such subject as we have settled in their country or restore it to its shores. For the purpose of trade, the entry will be continued to the period of their infant slave, and that he will become its protector from all attempts on independence. So that's it. Yeah. What was one of that was last week, a week before last, I went up to the Kaitāia Park. Yeah. Kaitāia Park has a whakatauki, and birds like this. They are one way to limit the amount of putipu, they can limit Kaitāia. It was by Hello Kirk. His father built that path. It's got all sorts of aerials on it there. And I asked Felicity to stop those bulldozers pushing that plant to pieces. And all I got from her father was he wanted to fight me. Yeah. So anyway, they can fight the world if he wants it, anyway, anytime. Yeah. But anyway, at the moment, Kaitāia has been dressed up to look like an English town. But the Maori, the first people here, has been desecrated by the second people. And I know the boys and the Europeans, they're all of them together. They all sent me. And I know all about when they were doing the cattle and all that sort of stuff. The Doriki. Yeah. But anyway, I noticed they're not working today, but they've been going flat out yesterday. The day was all about money. And ours is about money. So we're not asking you, we're telling you to stop desecrating the past. You're canceling.
Also, the submission process due to a distraction, asking what to direct any council. Because the scout tool for the long-term plan, that would be appreciated, but I won't be able to tolerate the quality out for individual and council.
Okay.
Can pass over to questions, if there are any questions, submission. Right, kung nang imediya ay itong final mark, puri ang kinakangina itinirani pai hakau mātou ki wo kōrero ai ngā piri ngā mō te rontu i ngā ki sumane.
I'd just like to finish off all this land here belongs to the department. The council doesn't have any land or anything. And all titles in this area are null and void. Null and void, because we never signed the treaty here. Does anybody want to debate that?
You do what you
Yeah. Good.
Then I could get quite it out.
Good. Without any question?
No question.
Thank you for coming, we put in together. Boy, not to do, but it will help. Hey, poor.
Thank you for coming.
Before the.
I think in our books where Robert Adams and I believe Robert is on Teams. Robert, just checking you can hear us here. We could turn this open and if we would like to unmute and on, we can pass 10 minutes of time for your submission. GGs, can you follow that up with Robert?
Robert is on, sorry, through you, oh, sorry, it's not a formal, but, Robert is on. Robert, can you hear us if you unmute? Unmute.
What we might do then is we're going to break for lunch until 12:30. If you could reach out and contact Robert to have him ready to go as soon as we're back in.
Here he is, sorry, Moko.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sure, Robert, we can hear you.
Kia ora.
And pass the time over to you.
Okay, submission, so I won't bother repeating that, but just further to my submission, I wanted to say that I'm really quite concerned about the economy at the moment and the impact that the rates increase will have on a very fragile economy at the moment, considering that we've just recently been noted that the Brenduans are now closed for another couple of weeks. I know from, I'm an employer, I employ 2 people. I know that work is drying up in the building industry and generally. I've also, have quite a lot of contacts in Auckland, and I know that the building industry is contracting quite significantly. And although that may not be happening in the north at the moment, I think that's likely to happen. So I'm just a bit concerned that that although I know the councillors have made a really big effort to reduce the rates as much as possible, but I really do think that considering how fragile business is, you've only got to look around security and see that many shops are empty, and there is actually some economic impact. And I'm just concerned that, especially for elderly people, and I classify myself as one of those, that those are vulnerable groups, and they are living on a fixed income with superannuation, and the government, as you know, have not adjusted their benefits to inflation. They've actually cut that. So I think that there's a significant economic impact on people with the rates rise at 16+%. And you may have noticed in my submission that I've suggested that we cut back for at least a year until we know where the government's going with a lot of its promises, if they come to fruition. They're talking about looking at the funding of local government, and I think perhaps we should wait. It'll be more prudent to wait until the government have clarified that before rates are increased to the degree you're suggesting. The only last thing that I have to hand and want to comment about is that food banks have just recently released some of their statistics, and they've said they've had a 42% increase in demand for food banks, which is a 83% increase since 2021. They're also saying that about a third of the people they support, which is 650,000 people nationwide, a third of them are new people who have never been involved with food banks before. And they say that the biggest contribution is the cost of living. So I think I'm just bringing this to the attention of the councillors. You may already know this, and I'm sorry if you do, and I'm telling you stuff that you already know. But I think that we need to perhaps pause and just see how things turn out for this current economic year, and until the government sort of step up with their support for local government. And that's all I really have to say.
Thank you very much, Robert. Pass over to
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
There are no questions from here. Thank you for your very succinct submission to our long-term plan, and we will be taking that into consideration as we settle on a final rates figure. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Goodbye.
All right, with that, we will. Would you like to do yours now? Yourself, Logan, and Joe are all separate submissions.
Yeah, I've got them with me because live in Kent and we've got to change the rest of the chamber to change the calendar. I've just got them to speak to or.
No, sorry, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm going to because I shouldn't agree. I can't sneak out like this. If we could please come back at 12:30, pick up again.
There are three of us at the speak because we got our times changed. By email that we got this morning, the other two people did not speak. They just wanted me just to clarify their ones. Is that okay?
What about apologies for bank notes. Learning from that for around the submissions we've got over now. That's here and here to speak to those very much.
Which number do you want to do first? I might do Joe. Joe's is basically about a rating and wanting a review of the drainage rate differentials in the farmers, and to add a public good to the drainage rate, it's actually in Kaitāia because we have all the drains that are maintained by the rules, and drainage rate is actually stormwater that is coming out of Kaitāia and needs to get to the rivers. The concern about the rate increase is very high. And unaffordable. Farming's getting hammered quite hard at the moment, and there's a lot of people that are questioning the ability and the hours of work that you have to do to farm, or whether it's or not. And basically more money needs to be spent on the roads, not on the cycle tracks or the road to zero. That was his bit. The second one is Logan King, which was number 31. Logan has taken over a dairy farm from us because he can't sell it. And he's saying his rates are too expensive for what he gets for it, and we'd like to see it reduced down to 10%. Attached is his rates for last year and this year. 47,800 for a 380 hectare farm. And the new year is 53,285, an increase of 5,432. And basically, most of that is was $4,097 is actually the general rate increase that the council is proposing. But dairy farmers get very little service in rural areas. There's no rubbish articulations or anything like that, and they're basically the roads are what they get and what's important. Attached to your his submission was a photo of the tanker and how bad it got last year, and the lack of metal on the road. The metal is back to being. The road is back to having a mud surface. It's only 3 kilometres from town, straight off straight opposite soft wireless road, basically straight opposite the mill. That close to town and the maintenance. And the other big one is the roadside drains, which he's asked for an RFS of last year to be cleaned. None has happened. There is some process. Been to the Hilton Hogan office, and there's some process that they need to have before they get approval to actually clean roadside drains. Those roadside drains, when are blocked and culverts that are blocked, actually floods paddocks, which loses production, particularly in the winter time where you can't have any animals on it, or the grass actually dies from having the water on it too long. So he just wants the basics of roads, road vegetation being done. There's the photo there, the vegetation on the sides of the roads is actually horrific. Down Maddie's Road, it's even worse because it's on the corners and you can't actually see cars coming around the corners with the pampas that's growing so high. And for some reason, the roadside vegetation doesn't seem to be being topped at all. So we want someone to look into that. And also the differentials within the roading, because roading is quite high for farming, but when it comes to the other differential, it's not equitable how it is now. That differentials should really be looked at again by the council. And it suggested where the reduction should be in these 4 activities and added to roading, which you've got 20 cents for roading at the moment, but that 20 cents includes footpaths, cycle tracks and that as well. So we don't actually know how much is actually on road maintenance. The suggestion was through your big book and your capital works, there was $4 million for a new cycle trail. So we only got 85 kilometres of cycle trails according to your document in the finals, and 4 million seems to be an awful lot in 1 year, and that actually could be in roading. Road to Zero, well, everybody's got sick of cones and stop signs and everything else, and wonder why we need to have 3 million each year in your budget if that's what Road to Zero is. So that's his. Okay. And then on to mine, I take it that you've all got it and read it. What I want to ask the council is, has every councillor had this voting document, LTP? You had got that, John? Maddie? That one is it, because it only come out last week.
When we adopted it, that was on the, when we signed off the consultation document.
No, my understanding of a lot of people didn't have it, because when I asked at workshops, it wasn't there, it wasn't available, and now that's Kaitāia only turned up last week. That's good. So you've got that. I just want to raise, you're proposing the 16.5% increase in rates, but in actual fact, for our community, it's a whopping 27.55%, because NRC is asking for 11.05 and you're asking for 16.5. That's 27.55% for every ratepayer. How you send out your rates does not differentiate enough between FNDC, particularly on your calculator. It actually includes all the rates together, and like if you have a look on Logan's one there, you'll see everything's together with one figure at the bottom. So from a community perspective, here's the rates from FNDC, and look at this huge amount of increase, which is what I've just told you on Logan's one. Yeah, and with the roading, with rating, having gone through a few issues at the moment, I believe that NRC and FNDC needs to have a rating for identified wetlands and SNA in order for them to be zero rated. Because if you're going to get into these areas not being able to be used, they should not be rated at all. And my warning there is NRC has some massive maps, and probably an awful lot of people do not understand how they have mapped all their properties with a wetland, whether it's a hill or anywhere, it's just been mapped. A whole title is mapped. I believe it's time's come again for FNDC to look at capital rating again, using that NRC document. They're saying FNDC's capital value is 32,000 and the land value is 18, and the rating units are 36,000. And those are the sort of figures that should actually be in a rating review to be able to look at the effects of capital rating. Land drainage, well, the land drainage rates need to be reviewed next year, because I've worked through this, and if you look in your document under the rating page, and you will see that motor tangent area has got zero rating for the next 3 years. And in actual fact, there isn't enough money there to actually do the work. So if this was to continue, they'd just be told there'd be no work in their district, in their area at all. I have been working on that with Fakita, who is very good with rates and understands it. But we have to work towards the recommendations that went through the community board, and they need to be reviewed next year in order for this to increase. And the employment of a person to manage the areas will give a significant increase to the rating areas. Example is Waihara and Kaitāia only take 8,000 for one and 12,000 for the other in collected rates. But by adding that person to maintain that, they need to have their rates doubled. They need to be made aware of that. The Kaitāia district, it still needs to increase as well, because the rates, there's 104 kilometres of drains, and the rates there will maintain the spraying but no machine cleaning. And I'd ask for a 3% increase in those rates to ensure that we can do the bare basic of machine cleaning where necessary, as in slumps, and continue to be able to spray the drains that we've got. So hopefully there's another paper coming through from Peter in regard to those rates increases that are required. Okay, roading, we talked about that, how bad the roads are. More money is needed, 20 cents for, on your document for roading, which includes footpaths, cycle tracks, walkways, is not enough. And can you please show the public what the true spend is on the road maintenance of the 20 cents? What is actually on roads? And show what, or break it down, footpaths, cycle tracks and walkways, what 20 cents is actually being split into. FNDC gets a 72% subsidy, and they only have to put up with 39% of works. You know, should there be more work on roads that can gain the subsidies? Because the more you put up, the more subsidies we should be able to get. That was from the meeting in the RSA. We don't need cycle tracks or roads zeros. This can wait, rather than have so much money in your capital works in 1 year. And because at the moment in your capital works on page, on the can't say pages, proposed capital works plan, you've actually got 8 million for roads, jumping to 14 on to 2025 and to 13 in 2026. But in 24-25, you have 4 million for Twin Coast rail trails, and you have walking and cycling 1.7 million, and we have roads of 0.3 million. Can these figures be all changed around and spread out to ensure that roading, which is everybody's issue in the north, is priority? Here that roading has not become a priority in your spending. But it also has a territory bypass in 26-27 for 5 million. Does this have a consent, and is all the land necessary purchase so it can happen, or is this just a figure here in case something can happen? And should it be then named as territory bypass, or a generalised name as in development purchases or whatever, but to actually name it territory keeps it there. And I was getting concerned about their borrowing ending. Water fluoridation, you've also got that you've got 3 million for Kaitāia and 3 million for Kerikeri in the budget 24-25. I make the assumption that that can come out now because that has been put off, so that can move another year or so out. Sewage. Land purchase. I did show you a picture of the sewage. The sewage scheme in Kaitāia is up for renewal, new consent now. I see it in the picture. I don't know if you guys understand this, but that is a sewage pond in 2007. Since then, you've added Awanui sewage to the scheme. This is quite possible to happen again. It's all dependent on the rainfall in the 3 catchments above Kaitāia and at what time they meet. And if they all meet together at one point before Kaitāia, this will happen again. So I believe that FNDC needs to look at a situation where you can have it discharged to land, because at the moment that is at high risk. The dairy farm that we had at the end of Bells Road, that's now my son's, we have continually asked by FNDC to stop taking water numerous times when the toxicity of the water or the toxins in the water become too high. They have helped us, and we've worked with them to be able to have an intake further up from the sewage discharge in order for the water to go across our farm and take out one of the water tanks, because there's actually 2 tanks on the river, one above, one below. So the one below is the one they keep asking us to stop when this sort of situation happens. So I think that I can't see anywhere in the planning that says that there is some way of actually having a discharge to land area without this happening. Other than that, I don't know if EBC has insurance to cover that if that sewage comes out of that pond. Stormwater, you know me and my stormwater, yes to that, but we need an operational budget. And in your stormwater here, you've got capital budgets, but all I can see under renewal, which I guess is where the operational budget is 600,000 for the whole district. And I'm saying it's all right to have this capital rating, which your policy for storage collection is for capital projects. It is not for operational. So where are you getting your operational funding from? And that is the most important thing that needs to happen. Kaitāia is dependent when the river is in flood of having an area to hold that water. And if should any of their assets fail and the river comes back into Kaitāia, that will leave FNDC liable if they don't have their maintenance schedule there. And my understanding is the assets that we have in Kaitāia have an age limit, and that some of those age limits have been met and maintenance needs to be done. But I can't see where there's only, in here it shows resource consent, stormwater for Kaitāia, shows a pipe renewal of 1.2 million, and that's all capital works. And then only stormwater renewal and diversion in Kaitāia is 47,000. So I just want to raise that. I believe council, basically all of this is council needs to get back to the basics. The targeted rates, land drainage, are the bylaws. Land drainage bylaws. There is a bylaw there, but it's not being implemented. We have struggled for and debated for a number of times now. Who's going to implement the bylaw? Who is going to be the warranted officer? How do we deal with breaches of the bylaw, particularly in the farmlands with all the avocado orchards and development that's happening and the schemes that are within it? And we still have not got that clear direction from council about the bylaw. My understanding is they're hoping to employ somebody and warrant them to do it, but at this stage that hasn't happened. And that's moving forward. Community services. Ihaku has the one centre, and I'm happy for the others to have the centre too, or the Bay of Islands to have two. But why the money in here for the Kaiō Library and Service Centre when it's only 20 minutes from their main centre of Kerikeri? Rongonui has none, and the services none, and those services, and it has a very fast increasing population, and they're all expected to go to Kaitāia or Kerikeri. And I think that you need to look at, does Kaiō really need to have all this money spent there? When it can be spent in one main centre where everyone can actually service, because we all have to get on the internet and that now. Don't go to services that much. There's different facilities, housing for the elderly. It's more called social housing, because if you go to the housing for the elderly and you talk to the people in the houses, i.e. in Oxford Street here, which is only a few of what you've got, it's more social housing. And I think FNDC, I believe that you've actually made a resolution to take that out of council, but within this capital here, you've got $12 million over 3 years, and I wasn't sure why you have that there if you're actually going to be passing the housing to someone else. And you need to look at actually who's in the houses, what rents are actually there. Halls for renewal is the same old questions going to come up year after year after year. I think the time has come where the communities need to determine if they have one multi-purpose centre for each ward. If people want to keep their halls in their communities, just like Waihara this weekend, put on a meal, collect money, pay for their hall. They look after it. Every other community has that opportunity. They don't need to be subsidised by FNDC. They can ask for grants, but they should not be assets that you depreciate in FNDC. Okay? Because I would take my head off the Waihara community. They can do it, everyone else can do it. I'm concerned that your book that you put out for water rate is increasing 85 cents a cubic metre. There is nothing in your documents to say water is increasing this much, which is a lot, 85 cents a cube. I think Anne might have had an email actually to how much it is actually going to be over 3 years, and it's ridiculous. Yeah, we tell them anyway, Anne, how much each household is going to have to pay for water. And then I wanted to also say, and listening to Andrea this morning about her rating, when you get emailed your rating demands, I believe that the assessments don't come with it. The only time you get to know how much or where your rates are actually being put is either on your calculator, which you don't even put in your books here to invite people to go to the website. Use the rating calculator, compare last year's rates to this year's. There's nothing mentioned that I could find that says this is where you can go and find out what's happening with your true rates, which is what I had attached to Logan's last year's and next year's, what it's going to be. You need that to budget. You can't just have a rate decision from you and then expect people to be able to find that. He has to find $5,000 extra next year if this rating goes ahead. So I think that rating calculator is important. I think that's about all. Oh no, the other one is when you give your 16% out as to the community, I believe you're not actually including targeted rates. The NRC will give you their rates, and it includes their percentage, includes the targeted rates. And that's where FNDC is failing, because on your rating examples, which is the other page, a house with a land value of 100,000, with what you've done is going up to 22%. A house at 250, 21%. A house at 500, 20%. And when it comes to the rural land, because they don't have any water and sewage, or the particularly targeted rates that are going up horrifically, they're down 13 to 10%. Commercial is, according to your calculated here is 21 to 17%. But I would like to ask that FNDC actually have a land value category for farm properties. You're only using residential, rural lifestyle and commercial. So you actually don't get a true picture of the farming community or their rate increases. So I asked if that could actually be on the next one. There's plenty of room on the page for them to actually do that. And I also wanted to note that the massive increase for us up north, which is your sewage scheme, the sewage for all metered properties is going up $404. $404 per property, which is a massive increase. And our little town of Hebe, because it's a small community according to your capital rating, because that was operational I was talking about, is actually going up $441 a toilet. So Hebe is going to have 441 plus 404 increase for sewage rate, carbon rate only. Not the other, and not your 16%, or the other ones. So that's all I want to say. Okay.
Thank you, Alabama Councillor.
And drainage department rates. You really pointed out that any drainage area has 0.
Yeah.
You said the other two Kaitāia and one haven't paid out on that one.
One's got two
So
Kaitāia. Yep.
just for my clarification, because I don't actually see the image. Responsible. Yeah, asset net.
Asset management plans, and the management plan has been in draft with FNDC since 2017. This is what I've been asking to be done. Council wanted to go and apply for a resource consent for these schemes because if NRC had decided that it is now a permitted activity to clean a drain, but a controlled activity to discharge it. And that cost for resource consent was huge. We've gone through that with Felicity and Melissa from Kaitāia and Martel Buttercup, because we believe with the stroke of a pen and the change in the plan in NRC that they can actually make it a permitted activity for drains that have been there for 100 years. Anything that needs to be connected to it is a resource consent. But without, we need a management plan in order to actually go there and do this.
Just so I'm being collected.
No, it's been spent every year, but we've struggled for the last 5 years. We now have Anya on board, and she's got to understand it. So we've been able to this year finally get contracts out in January, February, when they should be out November, December. In the past, it's always been done sorted by September, and then the contracts have been out. She has just done a contract now that's going to last for 3 years, which is going to make it a lot easier and a lot better. But the break that we're working through from the time that this was set now is costs have gone up. The motor tanking, well, it was overrated, and that's why they had a 0 rate last year and this year, but they can't carry on with the 0 rate going forward. And if we are to pay for a person to sleep by the council, that needs to be included in the rates, and that's not calculated in any of these rates. That income. Okay.
I've got a question in the chat from some Lee in asking if your combined rate the expensive by $1,000 is $565 for parking. Steve, are you able to unmute or verify what you're asking in our chat box?
I mean, it loads.
Yeah, it's just when you look at the combined rate that you quoted, Fiona, 26% or 27%, it sounds horrendous. But is that actually a dollar figure? So on $1,000, it's going to be $260, or is it just the percentage on the NRC rate is much lower as a dollar figure?
Grace, we're muted. Sorry, we can't.
Sorry, Steve, are you able to clarify your question in the chat box now? I think you've got
Steve, I don't understand.
Yeah, so Fiona, when you commented on the combined rate,
yeah,
as a percentage, it sounds horrendous. 25 or 26%. So if you applied that on $1,000 figure, our 16.5 is $165. The additional for the NRC work on 11%. Is that $110 extra, or is it 11% on the current NRC rate number?
It's the 11% that they had in their plan, that they were raising their rates by 11%. The only example I've got out of their book shows that a property of $250,000, their rate would increase actually 15% without any river management charges. But
their differential or their land against the land value is much lower than ours. For example, if we work on $1,000, our 16.5 is $165. The NRC figure, my current rate might only be $300, for instance. It's not linked directly to land value.
the NRC,
Yes.
I think I'm understanding, they now charge land value for the economic development to everyone, and they also charge land value for their land and freshwater management rate. That's where the high one is.
Yeah, but what's the figure? So what I'm asking is the dollar figure increasing by that 11%, or is it just the percentage you're referring to? Because you're saying that there's a 27% increase when you combine NRC and NDC.
That's only come from the proposed rate increase that NRC announced and that NDC announced, adding them together.
But we should stop collecting on behalf of NRC.
I agree. I was going to say that it's more than fine that NRC actually does their own rating, because this rate increase, and we know we need it for roads, sewage, etc., is getting camouflaged by the NRC, because the average person out there, when you send out your rate demand, does not know the difference.
Yep. Yeah, I think the GPS change that's coming, the message out of the government back to basics, that was driven from up here by the RTC. And yeah, I've got no more questions, so I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your research and Fiona.
Yeah.
For the interview and question. At risk of a scolding look from Fiona, I'm not going to say saving the best for last.
That makes me all right.
But thank you for having us up here and thank you for the building on the machine down. You know, that's just the kind quality and very submitted 15 minutes. Can't answer questions that you may have, but you have to start and this is your opportunity to
Amelia Fupla Kaitāia in Kaitāia, and Oraida Tina Kaitāia. Look, I'm not going to presume that you all know about the settlement legislation, so I just want to give a bit of hook-up to the beach board that pre the settlements, any settlements, 3 structures were set up. The Social and Wellbeing Accord, that is a partnership between iwi and MSD as the lead for on behalf of 12 government ministries. The next one is Te Korowai, which is an agreement, legislative agreement between DOC and iwi, the 5 iwi here in Te Huku, and then the Te Onirua Tohe Beach Board, which is a relationship and partnership between FNDC, NRC and the 5 iwi. The structure of the beach board is that we have 2 representatives from FNDC, 2 from NRC and 1 each representing the 5 iwi. We meet regularly to discuss and progress the rautaki that was adopted by FNDC Beach Board on behalf of whānau. It went through a huge consultation process. It was adopted by all in 2020-21. And it is that brings me on behalf of the beach board to the table today. You would see in your paperwork that that the board has twice now put this kaupapa of coming and submitting to FNDC around getting on the long-term community plan, because what we have not seen is financial resources to the progress and achievement of the priorities within the beach board that was adopted by your council. In saying that, I just acknowledge that we have had any number of technical experts sitting at the table from FNDC providing that expertise when required to support the mahi and the activities contained in here. But what we are finding is that, and just to mention also that NRC has also provided the administration back office support, as well as this year or over the past couple of 4 months, provided a project manager coordinator who developed a work plan based on the actions, and therefore prioritising how and what has been done and what can still be done, what still needs to be done. Iwi negotiated in that initial corridor resources through the settlement to make this a reality. Iwi have also secured funding to advance some of the actions within here and continue to do so. And that one of the, and as has community, in September last year, a wānanga was held here. That was attended by 88 people from various voice groups that all had a relationship of some sort of another with Ki Roa Tohe. From there, that planning group, that Ropu that had instigated that and got support from the beach board to progress it, have also been looking at using the content from that wānanga. That's 88 people from tourist operators, spat miners, MFE, community whānau, the Araroa Trail, any number of voices. Like I say, there was 9 different voices at the table there. Here, it was held here. Over 3 days, and we maintained that number of people throughout the 3 days. So community input into realising aspirations from that community, from iwi, from whānau, along with the alignment back to the rautaki is happening, as well as looking for further afield for funding, for resourcing to support the achievement of. The request from the beach board, you would have seen that a letter has gone out to the leads of both FNDC and NRC to request the resources, not the human resources, the resources to progress any number of these actions. So that's what the submission from the beach board is from today, to ask via of this council that our requests be put on the LTCCP. The amounts we have not given, we're not requesting, there's been no figure identified, but we are asking that the rautaki, the work plan that is in front of you, with the costs that are on there, be considered and be included in the current LTCP. And I just want to read a piece from the settlement legislation. It says the effect of the beach management plan on local government decision making, that councils must take the beach management plan into account when making decisions under the Local Government Act of 2002. To the extent beach management plan is relevant to the local government issues in the Te Aotearoa Atohia management area. So that's the request. The request is also underpinned by, while we acknowledge that we have the Mayor and Councillor Halkyard on the beach board, it's around the full participation and knowledge of the council, both councillors and staff, around what their commitment to the plan and to the plan and to the beach board looks like. That end.
Any questions? Coach.
I was in beach board for 6 years. Remember the it was just over $500,000 into the beach board. I had just on 200,000. You else tell me where that money's gone to?
I can't off the top of my head, sorry. I've been on the beach board. The the financial reports and the minutes of all meetings are available through the website. So they are there to be able to be accessed. I don't have that information on me. But 2006, what date did you say you were there 6 years? What was the amount that when you left? What was the date you left?
It was just on 200.
And what was the date you left? So 18 months ago, and you're saying that there was 2K in there 18 months ago. Well, then you should, those minutes and financial reports are available through the NRC website.
Obviously.
Worries us as a current beach board and farmer of the beach that there has been a rautaki and an agreement made that councillors have had signed off and nothing's happened against it. I can't answer for what's happened there, only answering going forward.
I think I'm just reading through all of these put on the spreadsheet, which would be really helpful. I've just noted that a lot of them can be done from our existing staff that really should be supporting you. I'll give you 2 examples, A20 and A21. Yes. Both of those via
Councillor Boyd, the pre-internet that was raised out the we have sent this list on to MCE. There are a few listeners ready to put our own stuff. Licensing, technology that we have to report. The bang on the money there. Streamers.
Yeah, so that was my question about training it to make the existing people they should be supporting their money for
I forgot to mention, sorry, Councillor, that Aroa Trail, they too are looking at what the strategy for the, from the top to Ahipara, what that looks like and ensuring to align it to the work plan that's been currently on in front of us in the board. So we're not just asking one entity, we're asking all of those with a relationship to the beach around how we are working collaboratively to achieve.
And just one other line as well, which I noticed here, Northland. They're a board that promotes economic development and destinations such as our beautiful Palm Mountain, the only Tohi. How are they helping you, or have you had contact with them about any resources that you could access as a tourism destination and an iconic location for all of Te Tai Whakaro?
As mentioned earlier, through the Wānanga, there were attendees at the Wānanga who had relationships to and with Northland Inc. And so using that pathway again to grow what others are doing back against the Rautaki.
Right. Thank you very much for doing so. Today, to our last I think our opinion. We